health coaches don't have a content creation problem, they have a clarity problem. When your messaging is vague, generic, speaking to everyone, it really speaks to no one. And your ideal client does not know that you could help them. And if you don't fix this communication problem, at most you'll attract likes instead of clients. So let's fix that today with the 5 steps to create a strategy that speaks directly to your ideal client. The reason why a lot of people, health coaches, struggle to create great content that attracts clients is they don't really have a strategy at all. They're just kind of posting randomly. We don't have a clear message or a process. So we're going to do that today. We're going to cover 5 strategic steps that'll allow you to stand out with clarity, confidence, and consistency. It'll be clear content that attracts clients, not just likes. So that's going to be hugely valuable. So the first step is headlines. So 8 out of 10 people just read the headline. Only 2 read the rest of what you've written. So the most important thing in your post is really that headline that is going to be hooking their attention. That's what's going to hook their attention. Same thing with an email subject line. So if we miss on that, we can have the best content in the world, nobody saw it. So this is like the wrapping paper. So we can have the greatest gift, but we need them to unwrap the wrapping paper. So a great headline will solve a real problem, so they'll know immediately what it is. It'll be specific and clear, and it will create emotional curiosity. So let's dive into those 3 aspects. So your headline is your first impression. You got 2 seconds before they scroll on by. So it's really important, and you want it to solve a problem. You want your headline for them to get, this is for you, this matters, and this will help you. And then we are hardwired to look at things that will help us with our personal safety. That's what's in it for us, is what we're all going through. And we have to, in order to survive, we have to ignore those things that are not relevant to us. So here's some examples. So 3 hidden causes of afternoon energy crash that have nothing to do with coffee. So people will be like, hey, I have an afternoon energy crash. It's clear. And they're like, I would like to know what's causing that, what to do about that. So it solves a problem immediately, and you can feel the relevance to your ideal client. Secondly, you want it to be specific. So why women 40 plus can't lose belly fat is so much better, because somebody who's 40 plus and they can't lose belly fat, they're going to go, whoop, that's for me, as opposed to let's talk about inflammation. So one gets attention, and then the second one will just get ignored. And so, for the same content, and you're wondering, why is nobody engaging with what I'm saying? Thirdly, we want to create emotional curiosity. Emotion is what drives action. When someone feels seen, understood, or intrigued, like they're curious, they keep on reading. And you want the impression to be from your headline, there's something here you need to know. And so that attracts their attention. Pro tip, create a headline bank. Now in Docs and Files, we have an old file that was hooks and headlines, but it is a whole bunch of templates on hooks, like how to get the good without the bad, doing this, doing X without Y, how to get X without Y. So it's stuff like that. So you can fill in the blanks of yours. But you can also spend 20 minutes and brainstorm 20 to 30 headlines using your ideal client problem. What is the problem that your client thinks they have? Not what you want to talk about. What is the problem that your client thinks they have? And then create a list of headlines. And then you can use that to create headlines when you're creating content. That will save you a ton of time. Batching tasks like this saves hours and gets the job done. So usually it's helpful to go to the grocery store and get all of your groceries at once, as opposed to, I need to get pasta, and then you come home and then you're like, I got to go back and get sauce, and then you come home. No, it's helpful to batch that all at once. Same with your laundry, right? So it's like, here's a sock that I'm going to put in, and then here's another sock. No, it's helpful to batch it. Same with this. So it's the same kind of mental capacity to create these tasks, to create these headlines. So do it all at once. That will save you time. Step two is the images. Now, you want the content that has images gets 94% more views. So you want to use relevant visuals, but not just something that's unrelated that becomes a distraction. So you want to use your face, real photos. So effective visuals could be some of these categories: client wins, those transformations, before and after pictures, nutrient dense foods, labs, simple diagrams about gut health or autoimmune, or did you know, or here's what PCOS affects. Things like that are things that will attract your ideal client's attention. Screenshots, testimonials. And then use real visuals whenever possible. It's a visual hook. People buy from people as opposed to just a random logo that they don't know who's behind that logo or that business name. So your face, your environment, your story, your tools, your process, these build trust faster than if you just have all of these over-designed graphics that nobody knows who's behind them. Step three, long form content. So long form gets more shares, especially in the health space, because they already know the sound bites. They want the details. They want the dots connected. And so that also allows you more time to build authority and greater trust rather than just a dance on a TikTok video. It's for the health space, we're talking about not likes, we're talking about creating client attractive content. And so, you want to be, you want education versus entertainment. They're both are valid. And some people that are influencers are in the entertainment world. That's fine. Maybe that works for them, the short form. If we're educating, this allows you to position yourself as the go-to expert in your niche, not the random influencer recycling generic advice, or not just somebody who's just the model for the whatever product. So long form content. So what is long form content? It could be long blog style posts, much like our power post, carousels, YouTube, long captions in Instagram that teach a concept, mini case studies, a day in the life with education sprinkled throughout, deep dive emails, podcast interviews. That's an opportunity to get more of that story, more of that education out there. How do we keep it engaging when it's long form? Have 3 to 5 key points max. Use short paragraphs, add in visuals, emojis. When we do our long power post, we add in a lot of emojis. We keep it short paragraphs rather than long text or paragraphs. B-roll, so that's when you're doing a video, you'll have an image of something else that speaks to that's engaging. That's more for when you have an editor, or if and when you have a video editor, or you have that capability yourself. And then just images that illustrate the point. Keep the language simple. Relate it to your client's life for relevance, like what's in it for them. Why should they care about your story? So when you're telling your story, it's really about that other person. And then end with a takeaway or a mindset shift, and then add in consistency. So you stop becoming any old health coach and become the go-to source in your niche when you're consistently talking about this particular problem and how to get this particular solution. Then if anyone with this particular problem who wants this solution, you're going to be the first person they go to. So storytelling is step 4. So we've got long form content. Now we want to storytell. That creates an emotional connection. Clients remember stories, not facts. Think back to your high school and what lesson did they teach about what were some of the lessons that what was on chapter 10 on that particular day? What was the math equations? What was the war dates of this, that, and the other? We forget that. But if your teacher, if your grade 12 teacher in English class asks you about whether he should divorce his wife or not, which he did. We had a conversation about that. You remember that story. Or it's something that somebody did in the class, or a poem that the teacher did in that same teacher did of the class, and he related it to the unweeded garden, and he had each of us as one. I remember those stories. When I'm doing HCTV, my favorite question is towards the end, and I because you guys get to the root cause. When you affect one thing, you affect a whole bunch of things. So when you impact, let's say, when you decrease inflammation, all sorts of things get better, and you have spin-off benefits. So I love for you guys to share. Somebody came for me for weight loss, but then, because they were eating well, their husband also lost weight. Or not only that, their knee pain went away and they could go, well, that was a story. Not only did they lose weight, but their knee pain got better. Every year as a family, they would go to the beach, the extended family. And every year before, the woman would not be able to go to the beach and play with her grandkids because of her knees. Now she had no knee pain. She'd lost the weight. So she was able to go down to the beach with her grandkids and be on the sand playing with her grandkids. See how much more powerful? I remember that story. And so those stories are really important. And the facts tell, stories sell. People will remember that. And so I have all of you now, when you're doing Health Coach TV, to share a couple of client stories like that, because people will also start to imagine themselves as being one of your clients and working with you, knowing that, wow, not only am I going to lose weight, but my relationship will get better and this will get better and so on. And then you want to collect stories that teach the point. People, Alex Hormozy says, people need to be reminded more than they need to be taught. And it is so true. So true. I say the same thing over and over and over again, but none of you are so excellent with such amazing results that you don't need to be reminded again. We all need to be reminded about the love elevator. We all pop out of it, myself included, every day. So it helps to be reminded. And it's this spiral, and we just keep getting better and better and better. So humans are wired to connect through stories. That's how we do it. That's what people remember. It's what they share. Did you hear about so-and-so? Did you hear about that? People share that anyways. Stories are what have people trust you, and people buy with emotion, and then they justify with logic. So we want to create that connection, that visual, not just you're going to have your lab value go from here to here. You got to fill in the blanks. Tell them why that's important. So the 4 story types: client wins, your personal story, breakthrough insights, and vulnerable truth telling. I'm going to break each of these down. So client wins could be, it's not a long story. It could be just like, my client slept through the night for the first time in years. That's a story. My client realized her cravings weren't about willpower. It was her breakfast, or lack thereof, maybe. My client finally felt calm on a Monday morning. So you tell the story, then you share the insight from that story, and then you give the lesson. My mentor, Evan Carmichael, says every story needs a lesson and every lesson needs a story. And so I want you to just kind of keep that in mind when we're telling it. Then we'll know what's the point of what we're saying, because we'll say the lesson. And then when we're trying to illustrate a lesson, we'll share a story. Your personal story, that's your why, your journey, the moment everything changed. So that's your rock bottom moment, your 90-second story. When we do the websites, we create that 90-second story. In phase 1, we already start asking you that as we help to mine your story for your niche. You've already done some of this already, and you'll want to share that. And then your power post, which is that long coming out of the closet one. And I recommend at the end of phase 1 that you do post that. That's a great opportunity. And if you haven't done the power post one yet, do that. Tara got 11 clients from that. And if you want to have us take a peek at it first, we can totally do that. Number three, research or surprising insights. So it could be, I found a study last week that absolutely blew my mind. Okay, so we got interest, we got curiosity. And so that is, shows that you're up on the research in your niche. Or I used to believe X, but until I learned this. I used to believe that you had to like exercise like crazy and starve yourself until I learned this about stress and cortisol, etc. So share that. That helps to position you as the expert and makes you relatable. Vulnerable truth telling. So it's not oversharing about then this happened, then this happened, then you wouldn't believe what this happened, then sharing all the gory pictures, no, and trying to evoke pity and be a victim. No, 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 that's not what we're talking about. That's not who we are as awakened healers. But it's talking honestly about things like burnout, boundaries, past mistakes, what you used to struggle with, what you see clients struggle with all the time. When I shared with my clients my story about when my dad grew up on a farm of and 15 kids, 13 survived to adulthood. And he never wanted to see his kids go to bed hungry, and he never had the opportunity to go to university, so he valued education as well. And so all my brothers and I, we all have like a whole bunch of degrees after our name because that was something that was important. Neither of my parents graduated high school. And my mom, her school burnt down. She was grade 10, good enough. She just didn't go back. It served her really well. She's 87 and she's doing fine. But for us, for my dad, he would have wanted to do that and he never had that opportunity. So we valued that. But the other thing, though, with him having to go to bed hungry because they didn't have enough money for food, is he overcompensated for that. And so when I was a kid, my dad used to bring home Big Mac bedtime snacks. So Big Mac, quarter, or a quarter pounder with cheese, fries, and a Coke. Sometimes he would wake us up at 11 p.m. or midnight for that. You can imagine how that might impact a 12-year-old or a bird, figure, for example. Go figure. But he did it out of love. But when I share that story that I used to have Big Mac bedtime snacks, then I give permission to my client to be more open with me. And I'm not some perfect person that was always perfect and always will be perfect and who's going to shudder at things that you might tell me. And so they could be vulnerable and tell me about their 17 sugar cubes that they were having. I'm not going to lie. I had to like make sure that jaw didn't drop too much when she said 17 sugar cubes she would have. You're going to hear these things from your clients. And so you want to share your stories, but in a way that shows that it's not something that necessarily you're still struggling with, or it depends on what it is. I mean, you can share and be vulnerable, but not oversharing where they feel bad for you, but show that, hey, I can take what you're going to share with me. So the story framework is the moment, then leads to the meaning, and then the message. So what happened? What was the story? What happened? Then what you learned, and then how it helps your client. That's kind of an overall, we'll have a few of these. I'm going to go and talk more about that at our virtual retreat. We're going to dive deeper into educational marketing and storytelling. And that feels good to share like this. It's not like, want to buy a watch? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about leaving people better than you found them, even if they don't become your client. And so as Evan Carmichael says, every story needs a lesson and every lesson needs a story. The last one, step 5, is the call to action. What is the point of even sharing the story if we don't let them know what they should do next? Now, that's not by my thing, but call to action is guidance, not pressure. It should feel like a gift rather than a pitch. And so you really want to, and you want to not, Gary Vee always talks about, give, jab. So like give, right hook is kind of his, or jab, right hook, I guess is how it goes. In other words, you have to give a lot more than you're asking. And so that upsets the equation essentially, so that they're going to want to give you more because you've given so much, and to sort of keep the balance. So your call to action really is, what do they do now? What's their next step? What should they watch now? What should they do now? Your audience wants clarity. Tell them what to do next. You're the leader. You're leading with love. So the gift, you're giving them the gift of the next step to get closer to what they want. If they're watching this, they're interested in it. So call to actions could be something like save this post, comment a keyword, and then you can have a mini chat that has an automation there. We can talk about how we can use automations. Comment your answer below, share with someone who needs it, private message me, follow for more tips, get the free lead magnet, join the free 5-day challenge. It could be something like this. These ones you can use today, for example. If this helped, save this post, you can refer back to it. Comment your biggest question. I'm here to help. Share this, it's like a verb, right? Like it's a verb. Save this post, comment your question. Share this with someone who's struggling right now. I was just listening to some this morning, and that was what they were doing. Share this with someone. They were talking about imposter syndrome. They said 80% of women and 40% of men suffer from imposter syndrome. So knowing that, so she shared what was at the beginning, and then at the end, she says, so knowing that your friends are also struggling this, share this with your friends who might also be secretly struggling with this. DM me the word reset, and I'll send you the resource. If you want personalized help, the link to apply is in my bio. And so there'll be a link to book a call with you. Watch the full training on YouTube for the deep dive. And so you might have a clip and you're like, watch the full training on YouTube. I'm going to get back to you on that one, that last one. Historically, algorithms have punished you for taking them off of their platform. So I don't know if that still applies here. So if you're on Instagram and you have a reel and you want someone to go over to a different company, YouTube, that might be a problem. I'm not sure. People do it all the time. I don't have enough data to tell you that. I'm about to try this one out. I will keep you posted as to, but if you say follow for more tips, that one works really well. And we have a follower funnel that we have some of our people that are more experienced with Instagram and who've got clients. And we have a beta program that's going on that Lisbeth is in and doing well. And Sherry's gotten 13,000 followers from that and a number of clients. And she was letting me know that she has so many clients. She horseback rides like every afternoon. She has her clients in the morning. She's loving life. And that works really, really well. So we eventually that will be for all of you. We wanted to work out the bugs because anytime you start off with anything, and the newbies are usually less tolerant of things not being just so. And so we're going to let the experienced ones know that, and then they will know that this is better than nothing. And they appreciate that. And then as they do it, and we don't get hung up on them not knowing how to do calls, for example, sales calls, then that works so much better. And then your value-based call to action should feel like, I care about your next step. So follow me for more tips. Share this with a friend rather than I'm desperate for attention. Please. So that's the energy behind it. It's just like, here's the next step. Or if you're doing a YouTube video, it's like you want to take them from this video and then you want to say, and I think this one will be the next video that you would like to watch. So we learned about how to attract leads. And then I want you to look at this one next on how to convert them into sales. So like that would be mine. Or we talked about knowing what foods you're intolerant to. Now let's talk about how to implement them into a meal plan that is easy. So it's like, what would be their next logical step after this one? So the 5 steps to client attractive content: headlines, images, long form content, storytelling, and call to action. You want to use powerful problem solving headlines. You want to choose relevant trust building images, create long form content that positions you as the expert, tell stories because stories create connection and trust, and then always end with a clear, helpful call to action for their next step. Client attractive content is content that educates, empowers, genuinely helps. It allows you to stand out. I always say the signal to noise ratio of all the 65 million wellness practitioners in this noisy world. We want your signal, your light to shine and to pop out of all of that. You don't look like everyone else. So you stop blending in, you start standing out. And then consistently doing that is what leads to trust because they can count on you being there to help them and attracting your dream clients with greater ease without hustling, shouting, burning out yourself. It increases the know, like, trust factor, which increases awareness. It increases your brand voice as you're forced to kind of talk, you force yourself to create the content. You're learning how to say it more and more clearly. The reason you'll hear this, the me version now is not the same as the me version 5 years ago. You will grow into yourself, into more of what you're trying to say. It'll become more and more clear. And you definitely will increase your sales conversion rate. So if people already feel like they know you, it will be weird. It could be that you get to have that experience where you're in a place where they know you, but you don't know them. And they will think they know you. Like celebrities have this all the time because you see them every week on TV or something. You feel like you know them, but they don't know you. But people blur that boundary. They kind of think that they know you. If they feel like they know you, they're more apt to do business with you. If you're an absolute total stranger, they're unlikely to go ahead and buy. So you know how we need those 7 touches. If that's in content that you've been nurturing them with, then it's going to be an easier sale. You will have a higher conversion rate, and that does increase your impact and your income. Now that you know how to create content to attract people to you, let's dive into how do you have those heart-centered conversations so that you can invite them into your program. Check out this video on how to transform your sales calls. Be good for you.